Lisa, thank you so much for joining us to read. Known you for 2021, I guess, is when we
Yeah,
first met.
yeah.
And love your poetry and looking forward to what you got. And of course, you got a new book coming out.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Um, yeah, coming out the debut poetry collection coming out in early 27 on Wise Blood Books. All right. So should I dive in? Okay. All right. So thanks everyone for being here. I don't know that I knew. I mean, I don't really keep track of the Super Bowl, so anyway, but just appreciate everyone being here. And because it is February and next weekend is Valentine's Day, for those of you that celebrate, this reading is going to be weighted towards a lot of poems having to deal with love and relationship. So some more romantic, some more domestic. Oh, and Dina says I need to share the title of the book that's coming out in early 27, which is Saints of Sleeping and Waking. And if I can remember when I read, I will tell you which ones are in the manuscript. I'm reading some things that are in that manuscript and some things that are being worked on for others. So this first poem is a love poem, I guess a bit of an origin poem. When I met my husband, I first didn't think of him romantically. But then a friend of mine suggested that we would make a good match. And then I had a dream that changed the way I saw the person that is now my husband. And so this poem is called I Dreamt You in the Garden. Before I even knew you, I first dreamt you. Before there was not much more than conversation, when you were mere suggestion from a friend, when there was still another who contended for my attention, I, in my surprise, dreamt you, dreamt us in a walled garden joined. My dream foretold the hedgerows call, the ivy's inviting whisper, and the sheltering trees. This garden, then both church and bedroom. Mattressed by the soft earth and singing soil, we were sky-clad beneath a flowering date palm, wedded, our fingers ringed and interlaced. Before we touched, I dreamt you in the garden. So this next poem is called Mountaineering, and you wouldn't be able to, you won't be able to tell this by hearing it, but it is a syllabic poem where each line gets longer by one syllable up to a point, and then there's a sheer drop off. And the idea was just to show and mirror the way that trust is something that has to be accreted over time slowly. Mountaineering. This is a thing that must be grown slowly. Even an adventurer who wants to scale less prominent peaks than Mount Rainier or Whitney will take time to survey the terrain before him, map the possible routes, pack gear enough for contingencies, and plan the pace of his ascent. He knows that an avalanche does not care where he has been before. It only knows this mountain, this day, this angle of the sun, this slab of snowfall, this direction of the wind. His skilled hands still only know this anchor, this tension of the rope, the strength needed to assist in his next step. Everything becomes now. This is how to ensure there is a later. It is the same with us. We might have sensed at first meeting the possibility of reaching zenith, of a joint ascent, might have felt the lure of finally reaching that long hoped for range of light, been tempted to rush. But time tells us to take it slow. Stand for a while at the base of the mountain. Watch the wind. Watch where the birds fly, how the animals scamper. Listen to the aging snow. Test our belays from modest heights first, lest our path give way, lest the whole slope slide and take us with it. And those first two are in Saints of Sleeping and Waking. This next poem is not, and I'm reading this poem because I know Sarah likes it. And it's called Beneath the Whisper Tree. I seek you in the late sway of the afternoon, trust myself into the hammock of your arms, and match the slow waltz of your breath as the low wind drags its fingers across the lawn. Slender blades bend into a sigh. I let loose the breath I forgot I was holding. Your lips lightly brush my forehead as dusk and time pass beneath the whisper tree. I find rest in the tender thread of twilight before sunlight slips the waning day. Here, as the sharpening moon silvers the winking night, your gaze, a night-blooming lily, flowers into a second sun. So I wrote that for my husband. I remembered when we were early dating, and I would sometimes, meet him at night at the coffee shop. I just felt like there was this kindness in his eyes, and I felt like he was like a sun in the middle of darkness himself. I also felt like I could feel like God reflected in him, and I was not Catholic when I met him. So I may have partially converted through his gaze. But the other thing about loving someone and being married to them is you want them to live a really long time, like a really long time. And sometimes that might mean that we make some interesting choices in the kitchen. So this next poem is called Pale Love, and it is in the manuscript. Pale love is deep love, blended in a Vitamix with apples, spinach, and celery, but not pineapple, because pineapple makes your lips go numb, like those peppercorns from the Sichuan province that you also do not like. It is, please, please don't get cancer again, love. It is, flush all those deformed and maddened cells out of your body, love. It is, we will grow green and grand, our wild leafy hair reaching for the sun, love. It's, let's get wrinkled and worn like the tree bark of an old sequoia, love. We will grow more interesting with each ring and never wish each other younger as we weather. My love is no trifle, swimming in sweet, heavy syrup. Bring on the spirulina. Bring on the bloom of algae. Bring on the wheatgrass. Let's drink the lawn together, a chorus of green singing in our bellies. So those of you that know me, maybe at all, might know that I adore Rilke. Most specifically, at least good translations of Rilke. And so this next poem begins with a line from Rilke about being folded. And the thrust of this poem is about the idea of we can't get rid of our imperfections, but sometimes we can transform them into something beautiful. And so this poem is called Paper Cranes, and it opens with an epigram from Rilke: where I am folded, there I am a lie. I come before you folded, like a grade school note passed between pinky swear friends, a tight bundle slid along the floor under the eyes of a teacher, her back to the class, her hand writing equations in white chalk on a green board, dust swirling in the air. In this way, I am hidden. I could offer myself to be opened, but even I cannot read what was written in the dark creases of the fold. folds worn and rubbed away from years of paper against paper. The page of you is deceptively blank and crisp like a cover sheet. Your message brushed by a small hand in lemon juice, the invisible ink of those days when we pretended we were spies who wanted to share in secret the tender root of things. I can offer myself instead to be folded in new places, like an origami crane, the kind that were folded by the thousands in Honshu and then set on a river under the closed eye of a new moon, accompanied by a column of floating candles lighting the way. There, it will not matter what is hidden and what is seen. We will find all we need to know painted in the kanji of shadow and light. So, and that one is in the manuscript. It's also in a Metabolist Press anthology, Enchantment of the Ordinary. This next one is still fairly new and maybe, maybe not in its final form. It's written in some kind of meter. And it is, I wrote this when I was in Austin and my husband was here on the night of a blood moon eclipse. So it is aptly called To You Who Are Far Away on the Night of a Blood Moon Eclipse, because I am very creative. Late last night, I saw the moon, dressed as if she were the sun, wearing a fine mesh veil, tulle of crimson, tangerine, and saffron. Fearless, she strode across the night straight into the arms of Earth's shadow and pressed into his dim embrace. I saw him drag his fingers across the rib cage of her craters and pull her deep into the cave of him. And there they lingered, merged until they were a whisper. Clouds passed by and did not even turn their heads, while stars, aware of the assignation, blushed and busied themselves. I would have liked to stand with you beneath their dark entwinement, mirror their meeting, but you were too far away. Now, in the growing light of their release, I want to hand this night to you as if it were an oyster, pale and cool. But paint, despite its multitude of shades, cannot convey the way stars tremble over rippling water, or allow the palm of air to touch your cheek, or wrap you in the still, eerie silence of a lunar eclipse. And anything I say can only point to things already seen. Words in human hands aren't a full making. They do little more than dredge the shoal of memory. I cannot then give you this night, but I can make you feel its absence. So this next poem is in conversation with the long tradition of come with me and be my love poems from Marlowe to Campion. But the speaker in this poem has a slightly different idea of what makes a life together beautiful. And so also I have taken and I'm repeating a line from Campion's poem, but I've remixed it DJ style. So, but fools do waste their little light, after Thomas Campion. How many waste their little light, chasing fast flinting dreams of flight, earthbound by a relentless drive to arrive, however's not to thrive. Too many waste their little light, enticed by artful appetite, surprised to find too late they're doomed, consumed by what they have consumed. Still others waste their little light with bitter blather full of spite, a slow swill that engulfs the mind and smalls the world we wait confined. Don't let me waste my little light and seed myself to cheap delight that fades. Time's wintered hand exposes, withering is the fate of roses. Let us not waste our little light. We'll stoke our gaze, push back the night, and then with duty will be crowned. In being bound, we each are found. So I never thought I'd say the words, here's my translation of a Petrarch sonnet, but here's my translation of a Petrarch sonnet. In full disclosure, I worked from a literal prose translation, and then I worked it into English verse. And so this is my translation of Petrarch 310. Mild Zephyrus, long gone, returns to bring fair weather, blooms and blades, his song sweet kin. And Philomel, in tears with chattering Procne, join spring's bright white and vermilion din. The meadows laugh, the sky now clears, and King Zeus is made glad and finds good medicine gazing upon his daughter. Love will ring, transform the air, earth, sea, and beasts within. But my scarred heart slams shut an iron door. Nothing escapes but sighs. How sad its song after she left and fled to heaven's shore. Flowering plains and singing little birds along with ladies' kind and gentle touch give for comfort and turn harsh. Everything is wrong. So then this next sonnet is a response sonnet that I've written. It's written here in Houston, where spring sometimes feel like it lasts about 5 minutes. And so this next one is called After Reading Petrarch 310 in Houston. The air is hot. Spring is consumed by summer, and birdsong flat as funerary chant, and floral blossoms, singed and wilted, become her vernal shroud. My sad sigh, I just can't be all Disney princess and bird tweet. The sun in slow jig reels across the sky. The wind is a soft fiddle bowing wheat. Grains fall like song, they fail to satisfy. So, though the doting gods may preen, invest the world with fever springs and roiling rivers, here is without you. Heaven's laid its claim and taken for itself the very best, while even Cupid holds an empty quiver. No wonder I've lost interest in love's game. So, there we go. Words I never thought I'd say. My response to a Petrarch sonnet. This next poem is a narrative poem written in an elegiac couplet, and it explores the lives we could have lived and the life we did live. It's called Ghost Lives. There is that life that I didn't live, the one where I never left Jersey and I went to college right after high school, graduating in 4 years, or maybe 5, from Brown or Sarah Lawrence or some other East Coast school, where I went straight into a high heels, suit jacket, type and file, work your way up beneath acoustic tile, drop ceilings in a tall building job, and where I married in my late 20s in a mountain bower or some scenic seaside overlook, and produced my contribution to the 2.1 child mean, and stayed home, or maybe not, and stayed married, or maybe not. There is that other life that I did not live, the one where we did leave New Jersey, move to Houston, middle of my sophomore year, the one where I didn't go straight to college and I instead worked temp one summer in Chicago to save up to buy a car, where I said yes when offered a part-time permanent job with tuition benefits instead of moving to New Mexico as planned. The one where I completed college in my mid-20s and got married by 30, purchased an American Foursquare in a transitional neighborhood and had 2 children, twins, placed them in daycare or not, stayed married or not, but definitely worked my way onto the 40 under 40 list. But in this, the life that I did live, I did not finish college by 30 or get married till I turned 33. In this, the life that I did live, I spent my 20s getting sane, attending countless self-help seminars and seeking wisdom and Southwest sojourns. Yes, in this, the life I did live. I married in the Catholic Church and stayed married. Sundays after Mass, we brunch, and in the summers, travel, sit in cafes, drink the local beers, and write. These days, I work from home, no heels required. In this, the life that I did live, at 34, they found adenocarcinoma in situ, stage 1B, cancer of the cervix. In this, the life that I did live is the life where you, child, do not exist. So one of the things, my husband, while he was waiting for me to move back to Houston and show up in his life, he went to Mary and prayed for a spouse. Specifically, and then when he proposed to me in front of the Mary at Holy Rosary Catholic Church on Christmas Eve. And so whenever we go up to take communion, if you see us at the communion rail and we're on the Mary side, you know how you have your hands kind of like this on the communion rail? Well, Randy will be next to me. He'll have hands like this, and I hook my arm through like this. So we're like linked at the elbow, and then we're like praying together. And I swear the statue of Mary smiles. I think she likes it. And so I thought it would be appropriate to do this little poem here to Mary. Sarah will recognize it because it was one of the first things I turned into a CLA contest. So an oldie but a goodie, but also not in the manuscript. It's called Stella Maris, and it opens with a quote from Frost. The quote is, "We may choose something like a star to stay our minds and be stayed." Robert Frost. You wear the night, shimmer with the milk light of Orion's belt, and hold the North Star in your outstretched palm. You once grew round and full to breaking, your belly a moon full with promise, small as a wink whispered into your womb. I, filled with shadow song, bloated with emptiness, heavy with waiting, fertile with want, nearly missed your invitation written in the pointing stars. Make of yourself a manger. At the foot of the Northern Cross, Alberio blooms orange and blue. I turn my face to the flowering sky. Fun fact is that the 3 stars on the belt of Orion are sometimes called the 3 kings, and Alberio, which it looks like a single star, is actually a Trinitarian star at the foot of the Northern Cross. So Trinity everywhere. So sometimes in love, it's not always a field of, I don't know, pansies, poppies, roses, whatever it is. People deal with tough stuff. But then we come through it and it's all good. So anyway, here's a new poem written in a recent CLA workshop, the one taught by Justin from Trampoline. So one of his prompts led to this, and this was called Let's Be Honest. I always wanted a child, eventually. And then when I met you, I wanted a child with your eyes, a child who with age would develop crinkle lines in the corner of his or her eyes from smiling, from being kind, from reflecting the light of God into the darkness of despair. And the cruel joke of it all, cancer. And it would be easy to blame that, but we were haunted. You by your father, whose hobby was bird watching and being disappointed in you. And me by my smart, insecure, valedictorian mother, born to the wrong parents in the wrong place at the wrong time, who was told as a woman she did not need to go to college by her saying, wait until you are 30 and established in your career. I wonder if she knew how it felt as her only child to be told to wait, to watch her face wince when I mentioned the word baby. how the unamelioratable cries of another's child were an offense. And we were looking at adoption, really, but not really, because we were each haunted and never got an exorcist, or we met too late, or cancer. And so was it resentment or relief when in the final hour of the final year, our one last chance at adoption due to our age, she got so very ill? Calls in the middle of the night to pick her up off the floor, cane to walker to wheelchair to bedbound, so fast that all choice went out the window. That's what we told ourselves. All thought dedicated to the care for my mother child, her memory lost. But let's be honest, we were haunted. We're still haunted, an affliction, not enough to get in the way of, I love you, but enough to ensure we both, for our families, are the end of the line. So I just have two more. So this next one is forthcoming in the better part, a new publication coming out. And it is also a product of a CLA workshop with Judith last year at Frostic Workshop. So this is after Alfred Sisley's Snow at Le Vincennes, and it is In My Winter, I Am Spring. I have fallen in love with the way the trees gaze upon the pure pond of sky reflecting the white ground. The way their silvery sage leaves feather into the atmosphere, seeking union. Everything tending towards purity. Both the stubble of twigs on the ground and the dirt-darkened, foot-slushed snow want to remember themselves as they first were. So do I. I want to gaze into the white mirror of sky and see myself reflected back, smooth-skinned and without fear. But I know I was never both those things at once. In my green days of cheap attraction, I was filled with the shadows of dead trees, an interior made of winter landscapes, not too different from the one I walked through this afternoon. Now, as I seek to hide the slivers of gray woven beneath strands of leaf dark hair beneath my hat and slide the loosening skin of my hand into the folds of my boiled wool coat, I am all spring inside. A green bud of branch planted years ago has now grown tall within. Birds landed on its branches, sang the sun into me. So for this final piece, we're going to go back in time a little bit, and we're going to venture into the world of spoken word, or maybe we'll call it prose lyric, or we don't know what we're going to call it. A lot of long lines, but this is a poem that I wrote for the Poets and Magicians show done with public poetry, and I performed this with a local band called the Wheelworkers, and we even had an accordion. It was great fun, but the poem is also really good without the accordion, and there's some YouTube thing out there somewhere. If you Google Tamara and Wheelworkers and public poetry and Rudyards, it might come up still. And it is also, surprise of all things, a love poem to my husband. And so this is called How to Woo a Woman with Words. If you were to open my veins, I'm certain what would spill out along with red blood cells, platelets, and water would be snippets of Whitman, Rilke, Eliot, Bly, and Oliver. They would arrange themselves as if animated into grand formations, pyramids of verse like Legos, and invite me to climb their steps, stand tall, and see the world anew. I could no more separate myself from them as from my own skin. They have taken up residence so deeply inside me that my husband was able to spark our courtship by quoting Eliot from memory. Unreal city under the brown fog of a winter dawn, and it was as if my own blood was singing to me. Something stirred, like ground softening into spring. Indeed, On the page of me, geese fly off the surface. There's a certainty of angels, an affection for lilacs, and songs celebrate a rolling earth, bodies soft like grass. I weave a fabric, line by line, one from one poet and one from another, a loose weave that I hold up to my eyes and peer through like a veil to look upon my house, the sidewalks along the street, the uncared for esplanade, and the clouds above, sometimes scattered like stuffing pulled from pillows, sometimes careless and gray like escaped smoke from a pipe, and then across at you and all your possibilities. The third time we met, I had a scene from a Wim Wenders film in my mind. A woman walked into a crowded bar. Nick Cave is on stage singing From Her to Eternity. Discordant chords hit the brick-back wall of the building. The crowd, filled with bodies slick with sweat and beer, swells like a tide and recedes in time with the guitar, his voice a cry of wind over the sweating sea. She sets eyes on him, former angels shed of his armor, and they just know. I said to myself, it can be like that, just like that. I looked into your eyes, past the iris to the light that lay behind them, and the volumes of kindness that I could fall into. Hope for the world, a soft nest made from snippets of poems and paragraphs from Lewis, Merton, and Wottiwa, all cushioned by the incense that rises from the thurible that swings every Sunday at Mass. And it is okay, your dislike of watching birds and singing Christmas carols, of driving further than a mile, shopping anywhere but online, or attending to medical bills and other gnats that bite our lives. And it is even okay that I need the kitchen counter cleared of clutter nightly and the dishwasher loaded with the bowls facing backwards. And how I forget my shoes and leave them strewn like a trail of breadcrumbs to where I was last sitting, and how airports make me curse. These things too go into the weave of us, become absorbed into the sinews of our body. These things too inform how we fashion our interior space, where the walls are decorated in verse and the internal stereo plays the Clash and Mozart at the same time, and somehow the sounds do not dirty each other. We are a richness within, boundless chamber of so many things. We are all that is contained within us, light satchels that expand as we fill them with items large as landscapes and small as a pearl necklace passed down. We are filled with these things and with each other. Thank you.